after birth. Once it is acquired, it can be performed without thinking about it. That is what a conditioned reflex is. It's a learning response that happens after birth. And once you acquire it, you can perform it without thinking about it. And it is carried out very fast. For instance, walking, driving, speaking, swimming, riding, dancing. So you can perform them without thinking about it. You can just start walking and you are doing something else. You can drive, you can just speak, swimming, dancing. So you learn them. You know, there was a time you were learning to walk, carrying your leg. There was a time you were learning to speak. But now you are so fluent, you can speak without thinking about it. So it's a conditioned reflex. The learned behavior becomes habits. You learn it, you've done it over and over and over and over. So it becomes your habit, such as walking, dancing. They are all controlled reflexes. Now, role of conditioned reflex on behavior. What roles do conditioned reflex have on behavior? First, it develops good habits in children. For instance, when a mother is raising a child with cleanliness, when you come back from school, you remove your socks, you put your uniform here, you wash it, you do this, you arrange your room, you do. So, unconsciously, the girl has learned that for 15 years of her life. So she has done that over and over again. So it has become a part and parcel of her. So when she comes back, it's something that is like automatic in her. So that conditioned reflex now can be used to develop good habits in children, such as cleanliness, respect for elders. Before you know it, maybe you are from this part of the world, the southern part of Nigeria, the western, southwest of Nigeria, where people kneel down to greet elderly people. Before you know it, it's just an unconscious thing. You see an elderly person, you bend down, you kneel down, you prostrate, or what have you. Then punctuality is another example of good behavior. Okay, you have lectures by 7, you leave your house by 6:30, so that by 6:50 you are already at the lecture hall. So that is another thing that can be developed because it's a conditioned reflex. You are used to it, so it can be used to develop good habits in children. Then the next role of conditioned reflex is that it can be used in psychotherapy. That is the conditioning emotional fears in mental patients, making them to undo or unlearn emotional fears that they have and learning new things. Now, it can be used to develop positive and negative attitude, e.g. developing favorable and unfavorable attitude towards learning, teaching, or the teacher and the school. Then it can be used to break bad habits and elimination of fear, especially in children. Then also, conditioned reflex can be used to train animals, such as dogs, in crime detection and security. You know, when the dog comes and just smells you and just sometimes it detects something. So it's a conditioned reflex, and that's another usefulness of conditioned reflex. Now, I want to talk about the differences between reflex action and conditioned reflex. Reflex action is inborn, while conditioned reflex is something that you learn after birth. Then reflex action takes a short time, while conditioned reflex takes a longer time. You've learned that over and over. Reflex action involves the spinal cord and relay to the brain after action is completed. But a conditioned reflex is controlled by the brain. Reflex action starts by muscle receptor cells, while conditioned reflex action starts in the brain. So the brain is the one that controls the conditioned reflex, while the spinal cord is the one that is majorly involved in reflex action, though it is relayed to the brain after the action is completed. Differences between reflex action and voluntary action. Reflex action is an unconscious action which does not involve the brain for initiation. But a voluntary action is a conscious action which involves the brain for its initiation. Now, reflex action involves small number of neurons, while voluntary action involves numerous neurons. Reflex action's response is very fast and automatic, while voluntary action the response is relatively slow. There is a fixed pattern of response in reflex action, like a stereotype pattern of response in a reflex action, while there is a varying response according to circumstances in voluntary action. Reflex action is inborn, while voluntary action can be learned. Now, we are through with talking about the central nervous system, talking about the brain and the spinal cord. We want to now start talking about the peripheral nervous system. And here I said the peripheral nervous system is divided into the somatic system and the autonomic system. The somatic system is concerned with body movement and overt reaction to internal and external stimuli. The nerves of somatic system carry messages to and from the sense receptors, the muscles, and the body phase to the central nervous system. So the somatic system carry message to the central nervous system from the sense receptor, the muscles, and the body phase. But the autonomic system, which comprises of sympathetic and the parasympathetic system, is primarily concerned with controlling the body's involuntary activities, such as the beating of the heart, digestion, secretion of sweat, and the like, so as to maintain an optimal balance in temperature and other aspects of the body's internal environment. So autonomic system is concerned with involuntary action majorly. Then this function is accomplished through opposing actions of sympathetic and parasympathetic system. The sympathetic system division is usually involved in excited action, and the parasympathetic system is in resting stages or quiescent states. So they are like opposing. In both parasympathetic and sympathetic, there is massive autonomic arousal. It serves as preparation for either running away or attacking. Then in both cases, the sympathetic division responds to the emergency. I want to summarize the responses invoked by parasympathetic and sympathetic system. In parasympathetic system, the heart rate slows down, while in sympathetic system, the heart rate speeds up. Now I said they are opposing systems. Then in parasympathetic system, it dilates the arteries, while sympathetic system constricts the arteries. Now, parasympathetic system also constricts bronchioles, while sympathetic system dilates the bronchioles. Parasympathetic system constricts the iris, while sympathetic system dilates the iris. Parasympathetic system speed up gut movements, while sympathetic system slows gut movement. So they are just opposites. Then parasympathetic system relaxes bladder and anal sphincter, while it is opposite in sympathetic system. That is, it contracts the bladder sphincters and the anal sphincters. Then parasympathetic system causes contraction of the bladder, but sympathetic system causes relaxation of the bladder muscles. Now, I want to consider the differences between the nervous system and the endocrine system. Response in the nervous system is fast, while in the endocrine system, response is slow, because there needs to be a transfer of the hormones from where they are produced to where they are needed. Then nervous system functions independently, but endocrine system is stimulated by the central nervous system. The effect of nervous system is short-lived because the response is very fast, but the endocrine system, the effect is usually long. In nervous system, the response does not depend on the quantity of the stimuli, but in endocrine system, too much or too little will cause metabolic disorder. You know, when I was talking about insulin, thyroxine, pituitary, and the rest, we were talking about the effect of the undersecretion and the oversecretion. So, too much or too little of secretion in endocrine system will lead to metabolic disorders. Then, in nervous system, the impulse passes through the nerves, while in endocrine system, the secretions pass through the blood. Then, the nervous system is controlled by the brain or the spinal cord, while the endocrine system is controlled by the pituitary gland, which is also called the master gland. Now, we'll move on to talk about the sense organs. That's the next topic we'll be considering. Sense organs. And we'll be looking at the sense organs and their functions. Sense organ, there are majorly 5. The skin, and this is the sense of touch, sense of pain, cold or heat, and pressure. Your nose is the sense of smell. The tongue is another sense organ, which is the sense of taste. The eye is the sense of sight or vision, while the hair is the sense of hearing, balance, and position. So we'll be looking at these sense organs in a greater detail, and the first that we'll be considering is the organ of smell, and that is the nose. The nose doubles as the organ of smell and part of the respiratory system. The nose warms and moistens, also filters, it moistens the air. So when the air enters your nose in breathing process, the nose warms up the air and it also moistens it. And also it filters dust out of and other particles from the air before it reaches your lungs. So you can see function, a critical function of the nose there. It warms, it moistens the air, and also filters dust and other particles off the air. And that is made possible by the hair that you have in your nose. And that's why after a while you check your nose, maybe with a cotton wool or a white clothing, you will discover that it is dirty. Why is it dirty? The nose is the one that seals or filters the dust particles and other particles from the air, so it is retained in the nose before the air gets into your lungs. So